The restaurant fell silent the moment Min Huang walked in, not because of who he was, but because of what he carried. A diaper bag on one shoulder, two restless twins in his arms, and a look that didn't belong to a billionaire CEO. Tonight, there were no chauffeurs, no designer suits, no flash of power, just an ordinary father, pretending to be broke. The hostess raised an eyebrow. "You brought kids on a date?" Before he could answer, chaos erupted. Little Bao An yanked the salt shaker, and Yen clutched her stuffed bunny and demanded juice. Huang sat them down, heart pounding harder than any boardroom negotiation. This wasn't supposed to happen. His date had already canceled. He was seconds away from leaving until the door opened. She walked in. Lan Ha, no glamour, no diamonds, just a tote bag, a paperback novel, and a nervous smile. She glanced at the twins, then back at him. "Window table with kids? Must be you." In that instant, Huang froze. She wasn't supposed to be here, yet everything was about to change. Lan Ha slid into the chair across from him, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Her smile was nervous, but her eyes carried a sincerity that caught Huang off guard. She didn't glance at his clothes, didn't judge the battered car keys on the table. Instead, she leaned toward the twins with a warmth that felt startlingly genuine. "Hi, I'm Lan Ha," she said softly. "And who are these lovely ladies?" And Nian squinted at her. "Do you like cats?" The question made her laugh, a sound so natural it pulled heads from nearby tables. "More than I like most people," she teased. Bao An immediately pushed a crayon toward her. "Draw one." Without hesitation, she picked up a napkin and began sketching. The cat turned out lopsided, goofy, with too many whiskers. The twins shrieked with laughter, their small hands clapping against the table, and for the first time in years, Huang felt the tight knot in his chest loosen. Usually, introducing someone new to his daughters was a battle, awkward silences, forced smiles, but this was effortless. The waiter arrived with plates, chaos quickly following, spaghetti flying, juice spilling, napkins piling up, yet Lan Ha didn't flinch. She wiped sauce from Bao An's chin, telling a story about the time she slipped face first into a birthday cake at the library. The twins howled with delight. Huang sat back, stunned. She wasn't trying to impress him. She wasn't performing. She was simply present. And in that moment, he realized this night, which began as a mistake, might just be the beginning of something he never dared to hope for again. The plates hit the table with a clatter, and immediately, disaster unfolded. Bao An's fork slipped, sending a meatball rolling onto the floor, and Yen knocked over her orange juice, the liquid spreading like wildfire across the white tablecloth. Huang's chest tightened. This was exactly why he avoided situations like this. Dates with kids were supposed to be messy, awkward, unbearable. He opened his mouth to apologize, when Lan Ha moved faster than he could. She grabbed a handful of napkins, laughing as she blotted the juice. "Don't worry, at least it wasn't red wine." Bao An looked guilty, cheeks flushed, but instead of scolding, Lan Ha leaned down and whispered, "Want to hear a secret? I once tripped in the library and landed face first in a birthday cake, frosting in my nose, sprinkles in my hair. The kids laughed for weeks." The twins burst into giggles. Even the table behind them chuckled, and just like that, the tension melted away. Sauce splattered on her sleeve, but she didn't complain. She twirled spaghetti around a fork and fed An Yen a bite like it was the most natural thing in the world. She asked about their favorite animals, their favorite books, their magic rock stories. She didn't turn to Huang once to ask what he did for a living, how much money he made, or what car he drove. For years, every date Huang had ended the same way. Conversations about wealth, influence, expectations. Tonight, none of that mattered. He sat back, watching Lan Ha's eyes light up as the twins roared with laughter, and something inside him shifted. For the first time since losing his wife, Huang felt normal. A messy table, sticky hands, spaghetti stains, and somehow, it was perfect. He caught her looking at him, not coyly, not with calculation, but with a smile so genuine it left him speechless. And in that moment, amid chaos and crayons, Huang realized he wasn't on a blind date. He was witnessing the possibility of family, The server slipped the leather-bound check onto the table with a polite smile. "Take your time." Huang's stomach tightened. His hand moved instinctively toward his back pocket, then froze. These weren't his tailored slacks. They were borrowed jeans, and he wasn't even sure a wallet sat inside them. Panic sparked in his chest. For a man who could buy the entire block with a single transaction, this moment felt humiliating. Not because he lacked the money, but because tonight, he had chosen to leave all of it behind. Lan Ha noticed. Her eyes softened, not with pity, but with quiet understanding. Without hesitation, she reached into her worn leather wallet, pulled out a card, and slid it toward the server. "It's fine," she said calmly, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "I've had worse dinner dates." Huang stared at her, stunned. "You didn't have to." "I know," she interrupted gently, her voice steady. "But I wanted to. You looked like someone who just needed kindness." Yeah, the noise of the restaurant seemed to fade. It wasn't about the money, it never was. In that moment, it was about the way she saw him. Not the billionaire in the headlines, not the man sitting at the head of shareholder meetings, but the father fumbling with booster seats and juice boxes. A man simply trying, and for the first time in years, Huang felt seen. The laughter at the table softened into something quieter, warmer. Lan Ha tore a breadstick in half, offering one piece to Bao An while absent-mindedly staring past the restaurant window. "I grew up in a house where money was tight," she began, her voice gentle, touched with memory. "But we had books. Stacks of them, on shelves, in boxes, sometimes even on the floor because there wasn't enough space. My mom used to read to me by candlelight when the power went out, every night, no matter how tired she was." And Yen leaned in, eyes wide. "Even when you had no lights?" Lan Ha nodded, smiling softly. "Yes, and those stories, they made me feel rich. Even when we had nothing else. That's why I became a librarian, because books gave me a world I never could have imagined otherwise. And now, I get to share that with other kids." Huang listened, the noise of the restaurant fading into a hum. He had been surrounded by wealth, possessions, and privilege his whole life, but none of his dates had ever spoken with such quiet gratitude. No envy, no longing, just appreciation for what truly mattered. Most women he met asked about Aspen homes, imported wine, luxury vacations. Lan Ha asked about magic rocks, favorite animals, bedtime stories. She wasn't curious about his bank account, only about who he was as a man. As she spoke, Bao An leaned against her arm, crumbs clinging to her cheek. Lan Ha gently brushed them away, a simple, instinctive gesture. "These girls," she whispered, "are something special." Huang swallowed hard. His voice trembled. "They're my world." And in that fragile moment amid breadsticks and crayon scribbles, he realized Lan Ha wasn't just passing through their lives. She was slowly weaving herself into the very fabric of it. Saturday morning sunlight streamed through the windshield as Huang parked the old Honda Civic in front of a building with bright red doors, the Pine Street Library. His heart thudded as if he were about to enter a board meeting, only this time, there were no shareholders, no cameras, just a fragile hope. Inside, the air smelled of polished wood and old pages. Children sat cross-legged on a rug in the corner, their eyes fixed on a woman in a soft cardigan holding a picture book. And then the bear said, "Who took my hat?" Her voice rose playfully, and the room erupted in giggles. Huang froze. It was her, Lan Ha. Before he could stop them, Bao An and An Yen squealed, racing past the other kids to throw themselves at her side. She startled mid-sentence, then looked up. Her eyes widened as they landed on Huang standing at the entrance, his hands shoved nervously into his jacket pockets. For a moment, time stilled. She closed the book slowly, her fingers lingering on the worn pages. The children around her murmured in protest, but she gently hushed them. "You were meeting someone else," she said, her voice steady but edged with something deeper. "Then why did you stay?" Huang inhaled sharply, the truth spilling before he could stop it. "Because I couldn't walk away, not when someone finally saw me. Not the CEO, not the headlines, just me, the father trying to keep it together." Lan Ha's lips parted, her expression unreadable. Around them, the library hummed quietly, filled with the rustle of pages and the soft laughter of children. And in that sacred stillness, Huang realized he wasn't just a visitor in her world, he wanted to be part of it. The library had grown quieter. Most of the children had drifted away, their parents calling them home. Only the twins remained, flipping through picture books a few feet away, their small voices filling the silence. Lan Ha stood near a shelf, arms folded, eyes fixed on Huang. "So, who are you really?" Her tone wasn't sharp, but it carried weight. Huang hesitated. For years, he had perfected the art of hiding behind contracts, boardrooms, headlines, but in this moment, there was no shield, no press release, just him. "I'm Min Huang," he said slowly, the words heavy in his throat. "CEO of Westwood Enterprises, the man you've probably seen on magazine covers, the name that shows up in stock market reports." He paused, shaking his head. "But none of that matters when I go home at night, because home," his voice cracked, "home is just two little girls who still ask why their mother isn't coming back." Lan Ha's breath caught. He pressed on, almost afraid that if he stopped, he'd never say it again. "When my wife died, the world expected me to keep moving. Meetings, deals, speeches, I did all of it. And yet, every night, I sat in silence while my daughters clutched drawings of animals their mom used to sketch. I kept telling myself that healing would mean betraying her memory." His chest tightened, and for a moment, he couldn't speak. Then he looked at Lan Ha, eyes raw. "But that night in the restaurant, when you picked up a crayon and made my girls laugh," his voice faltered. "It was the first time I didn't feel guilty for smiling. The first time it didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like hope." The air between them thickened with emotion. Lan Ha unfolded her arms, her face softening. She stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "You think kindness is betrayal? You think moving forward means forgetting?" Huang's jaw tightened. "I don't know anymore. All I know is that I can stand in front of thousands of people and never feel seen. But when you looked at me, when you paid for that dinner, when you listened to my girls like they mattered, you saw me. Not the CEO, not the headlines, just me." Lan Ha's eyes glistened. She reached out, brushing her fingers lightly across his sleeve, grounding him. "Min Huang, I didn't see your wealth, or your company, or your name. I saw a man exhausted from holding too much alone, and two little girls who just want someone to laugh at their drawings." Silence lingered. The twins' giggles floated in the background, innocent and untouched by the weight of their father's words. For the first time in years, Huang let the silence stand, not as emptiness, but as something sacred. It started with a single photograph, a grainy shot taken outside the Pine Street Library, Lan Ha walking hand in hand with a Nian and Bao An, Min Huang trailing just behind them. The caption read, "Mystery woman spotted with Westwood twins. Who is she?" By nightfall, her name was everywhere. Headlines screamed secret romance, hidden family, gold digger or guardian angel. Social media buzzed with theories, dissecting every detail from her plain cardigan to her modest shoes. The next morning, chaos erupted. Paparazzi swarmed her small apartment building, camera flashes piercing through the blinds, microphones shoved at her as she tried to leave for work, neighbors whispered in the hallways. At the library, co-workers glanced sideways, their murmurs sharp as knives. Within a week, she was called into the director's office. "We're concerned," he said, eyes avoiding hers. "Your presence has become a distraction. The board believes it's best you take a leave of absence." The words landed like stones in her chest. Years of building a quiet, steady life, gone with one photo. That night, she sat in her living room, curtains drawn tight against the swarm outside. Her phone buzzed endlessly with messages, half sympathy, half judgment. She didn't answer. She couldn't. Across town, Huang was in his glass-walled office, the city lights blazing behind him. His advisors warned, "This story is damaging. Investors are nervous. You need to end it, or at least step back until it cools down." He clenched his fists. They didn't see what he saw. To them, it was scandal. To him, it was the most real connection he'd had in years. But in the silence of her apartment, Lan Ha whispered to herself, voice breaking, "I didn't ask for any of this." The street outside Lan Ha's apartment was chaos. Reporters lined the sidewalk, cameras flashing like lightning, microphones thrust into the air. Is she the nanny, the mistress, the secret wife? Voices blurred into a wall of noise. Then it happened. A hush fell. The crowd parted slightly as a tall figure in a dark coat appeared at the base of the steps. Min Huang, his hair tousled by the wind, his eyes fixed only on the door above. The cameras exploded again, frantic with clicks, but he ignored them. He climbed each step slowly, deliberately, until he stood before the door where Lan Ha waited, hidden behind the curtain, from the window. Her hands trembled as she clutched the fabric. She wanted to shut it all out, yet his voice rose, strong enough to pierce the chaos. I can't change the headlines. I can't stop the noise, but I can tell you the truth. Right here. Right now. The crowd leaned closer, hungry for scandal. Huang pressed his palm gently against the wooden door. The girls ask about you every night. They miss you, and so do I. His voice cracked. You didn't ask for this storm, but neither did we. And somehow, you've become the most real thing I've had in years. Lan Ha's eyes filled with tears. Behind the door, her voice shook. I never wanted the spotlight. I just wanted a quiet life. I know, he answered softly. But the truth is, I can live without fame, without money, without the empire. What I can't live without is this. You. Them. Us. Silence stretched, broken only by the relentless clicking of cameras. She whispered through the wood, I'm sorry. I need you to go. Huang stood there, the weight of her words pressing down. Then slowly, he nodded. Each step back through the crowd felt heavier than the last. The reporters shouted questions, but he heard nothing, only the echo of her voice and the ache in his chest. And behind the curtain, Lan Ha pressed her forehead against the door, tears streaming, torn between fear and the love she didn't dare claim. The days that followed were heavy with silence. Huang tried to keep the rhythm of their small family intact, breakfasts at the kitchen table, bedtime stories, weekend walks, but something essential was missing. Each night, when the lights dimmed, the twins whispered the same question. Daddy, when is Mama Ha coming back? He never had an answer. One morning, he found them unusually quiet at the dining table, crayons scattered around like fallen leaves, and Nian carefully drew 3 stick figures holding hands, hearts floating above their heads. Bao An added a 4th figure, slightly taller, with long hair. Underneath, in crooked letters, they scrawled, Us. They taped the drawing on the front door. Just below another old napkin sketch, a cat with too many whiskers, the one Lan Ha had drawn on their very first night together. For Huang, it was both unbearable and beautiful, proof of their longing, proof of his own. That afternoon, a knock came. Not the pounding of reporters, but something gentler, hesitant. Huang opened the door to find no cameras, no microphones, only 2 small hands pressed against his legs. The twins had run forward, squealing, Mama Ha! And there she was. Lan Ha stood on the threshold, her eyes rimmed red, shoulders trembling. In her hand, she held the drawing from the door, now slightly crumpled. I tried to stay away, she whispered, her voice breaking. I told myself it was safer, quieter, but every night I kept hearing their laughter. I kept seeing their faces, and I realized leaving didn't protect them. It only broke them. It broke me. Huang's chest tightened as he stepped closer. I didn't come here with promises or headlines, just my heart and theirs. The twins wrapped themselves around Lan Ha, their arms tiny but fierce. She sank to her knees, clutching them as if afraid they might vanish. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but her smile, fragile and luminous, shone through. Huang whispered, his voice trembling. I can live without wealth, without power, but not without this. Not without you. Lan Ha lifted her gaze, her eyes glistening. Then let's stop running. Let's give them something better, something real. For the first time in weeks, the storm outside felt far away. In its place was something stronger, a fragile hope, stitched together by crayon hearts, children's laughter, and the quiet courage to begin again. Life did not return to normal overnight. The media frenzy still lingered, and whispers followed them wherever they went. But inside the small cottage where crayons littered the coffee table and laughter echoed off the walls, something new was taking root. For Huang, the shift was profound. He no longer rushed through evenings with one eye on his phone and the other on stock reports. Instead, he found himself on the floor, building block towers with Bao An, or helping a Nian color in her imaginary kingdoms. And every time he looked up, Lan Ha was there, sometimes reading aloud from a children's novel, sometimes just watching with that soft smile that told him she was exactly where she wanted to be. One evening, as they cleared spaghetti dishes from the table, Huang hesitated. "There's something I want to do," he said, voice tentative. "But I can't do it alone. Not anymore." Lan Ha tilted her head. "What is it?" "Story Nest," he replied. "A program for kids, free books, reading corners, after-school care, places where children who don't have much can still feel like they belong somewhere. I can fund it, but I want you to lead it, because you know what books can mean better than anyone." Her breath caught. She wasn't used to grand proposals, not of marriage, not even of projects. But this was different. This was a chance to pour her quiet passion into something lasting. Together. They began. The twins helped decorate the first reading corner with drawings of cats, castles, afamads, and hearts. Lan Ha organized volunteers, trained librarians, and made sure every child felt seen. Huang stood in the background, not as the billionaire with a reputation to polish, but as the father who watched his daughters beam when Mama Ha read to a crowd. The press tried to twist the story. Of course, CEO's girlfriend turns charity worker. Is this real or a publicity stunt? But slowly, as the program grew, the headlines shifted. Reporters began writing not about scandal, but about the hundreds of children who finally had books to take home, safe spaces to read, and mentors who cared. At home, the rhythm of life began to settle into something deeper, steadier, almost sacred. The chaos that had once threatened to unravel them was still there. Spilled juice on the kitchen floor, shoes left scattered at the doorway, work deadlines buzzing in the background, but it no longer felt like chaos. It felt like life. Evenings became their anchor. After dinner, the family gathered in the living room, the twins carrying their favorite blankets and books. The floor became their kingdom. Pillows tossed everywhere, the warm glow of a lamp spilling over the pages. Bao An loved the adventure stories, the ones with dragons and daring quests, interrupting often to demand a new ending or to argue that she could have climbed the mountain faster. Onion, quieter but no less determined, dragged her book of fairy tales to the shade of a corner, curled up with the kind of intensity that made the world disappear. Between them, Lan Ha's gentle voice carried through the room, weaving stories like lullabies, while Huang listened with a smile that seemed to grow with every laugh, every question, every sleepy yawn. Weekends belonged to the park. They became ritual, shoes tied, snacks packed, the girls racing out the door before their parents even had coats on. Bao An always insisted on racing everyone to the swings, her hair flying, her laughter carrying across the open air like a song. And Nian, in contrast, brought a book tucked under her arm, seeking out the cool shade beneath the old oak tree. There, she read aloud to whoever would listen, her sister when she slowed down enough to pause, or her parents when they sat close, sipping coffee from paper cups and watching time slip by in the gentlest of ways. One night, after the girls had finally surrendered to sleep, the house grew quiet, filled only with the soft hum of the refrigerator and the echo of laughter that still lingered in the walls. Huang wandered through the rooms, his heart swelling at the sight of tiny sneakers by the door and crayons scattered across the dining table. He stepped outside onto the porch and found Lan Ha already there, sitting with her knees drawn up, a blanket draped around her shoulders. Above them, the wind chimes tinkled softly, their song blending with the whisper of the night breeze. She looked up as he joined her, her eyes thoughtful, reflecting both the weariness of long days and the gratitude of nights like this. After a moment, she spoke, her voice quiet but steady. "You've changed." Huang sank down beside her, stretching his legs out across the porch, the wooden boards creaking beneath his weight. He let the words settle in the space between them. not rushing to answer. Finally, he shook his head gently. "No," he said. His voice carried a certainty he hadn't felt in years. "I just finally stopped pretending." He lifted his hand, gesturing toward the house behind them. Through the window, the faintest glow of the girls' nightlight spilled into the dark. The echoes of their laughter seemed to hum in the air, long after the day had ended. "This," he continued, "this is the only empire I want to build now." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The night stretched around them, soft and endless, the kind of silence that didn't feel empty but full of meaning, of unspoken truths, of the weight of what they had endured together. Her smile trembled when it came, fragile yet bright enough to soften the lines of her face. It reached her eyes, glistening as they caught the porch light. "And it's one that doesn't need headlines." Huang turned toward her, his chest tightening with the kind of love that had been tested, battered, but never truly broken. He reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers, grounding himself in the warmth of her touch. "Only love," he said, his voice steady. "Only us." The words hung in the night air, simple yet profound. Lan Ha leaned her head against his shoulder, their hands still intertwined. The porch creaked gently beneath them. The wind chimes swayed, and the world outside seemed distant, irrelevant. And in that moment, on a quiet porch under a quiet sky, they knew. The storm had not destroyed them. It had remade them. Not into something flawless or untouchable, but into something stronger. Into a family that had learned to weather the rain together, to laugh in the in-between, to choose each other over and over again. It wasn't perfection, it was better, it was real. On a quiet spring afternoon, the backyard was filled with laughter, chalk drawings on the pavement, the twins chasing bubbles. Huang brought out a small wooden box, his hands trembling. He knelt before Lan Ha, holding a simple handmade ring. "No headlines, no empire, just us," he whispered. "Lan Ha, will you marry me?" Her eyes filled with tears as the twins squealed. Circling them with joy, she slipped the ring on, smiling through her tears. "We've been a family all along. Now it's just official."